people that work in places like Haiti, for example, saw that this massive machine of State Department, Clinton Foundation, private businesses, money flowing in every direction, Clinton getting awards with massive price tags that he charges, and then money going to the foundation, then contracts going to the businesses that were giving the awards. Nobody liked it. Nobody liked it, and people saw it for years.
And that's Jeffrey Sachs, ladies and gentlemen, and that's significant. Joining us now is John Sununu, former governor of New Hampshire, former chief of staff to President George H.W. Bush. Hello, Governor.
Good day. How are you today?
I am fine. Thanks for joining us
Good.
again. All right, when you hear that from Jeffrey Sachs taking the Clinton Foundation and the Clintons to task, how significant is that?
Well, it's not just Jeffrey Sachs. There's a lot of folks on the left that are beginning to question the integrity issue, the honesty issue, the taint, if you will, or the smell that comes out of that whole process. It really is a pattern of doing business that is, I think, in the long run, going to make it extremely difficult for her to begin to regain the trust of the American voters.
Yeah, no, well, absolutely. And of course, you know, she was 25% trustworthy and honest in the Wall Street Journal poll, and the next day the New York Times CBS poll comes to save her, and all of a sudden she gained about 20 points or so compared to the poll that was out the day before. I don't understand that one. Well,
look, it's the friends rigging the polls. It's how you ask the question. And until we get to the point where people are having to make real decisions at the polls, there's always going to be going up and down, back and forth. Look at the polls in the UK with their election.
Right.
The night before the election, they were off.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's all in how the question is asked. All right, there's a summit going on today, an Obama summit in Washington with the Gulf states, but the problem is Saudi Arabia, most notably, and other Gulf states aren't showing up.
They're sending a message to President Obama. He wanted to lead from behind, and they're leaving him behind. They're very smart people over there who understand that if the United States is not willing to accept its responsibilities as a leader, it ought not to be allowed to be seen as a leader. Saudi Arabia is sending over their crown prince, Mohammed bin Nayef, a very smart guy, younger guy, very close to our Defense Department and our security groups, and he is the right man to be here from Saudi's point of view, but it is obviously a huge disappointment for President Obama that King Salman is not coming himself.
Now, I mean, you know, now they say, of course, they knew about it. It's not a snub. It was a scheduling thing. Yeah, the Saudis are saying the same thing. I wish the Saudis would just tell the truth and tell it like it is. But, I mean, what kind of, again, this all goes back to Hillary. Doesn't she have to disown the Obama foreign policy, but she can't because she was a main part of it for 4 years? I mean, how does she get out of this box on that?
She doesn't. She has to wallow around inside that box and figure out how to dance with it. But she's going to stay in that box because it's as much her mistake and her problem as it is Obama. Remember, she was there during Benghazi. She was there during the crisis in Libya. She was part of the early disaster of crazy foreign policy, not knowing what to do with Syria. And she was there as ISIS was beginning. So it's hers. She can't walk away from it.
No, that's absolutely true. All right, Jeb Bush had something to say. He was asked about Iraq, and this is making a lot of news. You know, earlier, about last week, he talked about how his brother is his biggest advisor on Israel, which I thought was a good thing. He didn't say he's my foreign policy advisor, period. He'd separated himself in that respect from James Baker, who I think has problems with Israel. So he said his brother, who has a great relationship with Israel, is his main advisor. And then he was asked this, if he would have gone to war with Iraq, knowing what he knows now, and here's what he said.
In retrospect, the intelligence that everybody saw, that the world saw, not just the United States, was faulty. And in retrospect, once we invaded and took out Saddam Hussein, we didn't focus on security first. And the Iraqis, in this incredibly insecure environment, turned on the United States military because there was no security for themselves and their families. By the way, guess who thinks that those mistakes took place as well? George W. Bush.
Your brother.
Yeah, I mean, so just for the newsflash to the world, if they're trying to find places where there's big space between me and my brother, this might not be one of those.
All right. I mean, does that help him? Does that hurt him? I mean, what do you think that answer
let's
does?
Let's just talk to the facts first, Steve. On the basis of the intelligence that was there, Kerry voted for the
and Hillary,
action
right?
in Iraq. So did Hillary.
Right.
The Bush did. The UK did. The French Intelligence Committee had the same data. So the decision to go into Iraq can be hindsighted and second guessed. But it was, at the time, on the basis of the data that was there, the right decision. The best way for me to say it, if I saw that same data, I would have gone into Iraq. Now, in terms of what happened afterwards, I do think that everybody is agreeing that there was a mishandling after the military victory in Iraq. And certainly part of it was because the Iraqis themselves were playing the internal game of the Shia versus the Sunni and the old power structure versus the new power structure. I think we just underestimated how complicated that process of ironing out, if you will, the internal wrinkles were. And I think that's where the process fell apart.
All right. So the answer doesn't hurt him. It shows that he could address it honestly.
And I think that's important. I think he gave a correct, proper answer and was willing to accept the reality of the post-victory failure.
All right, Governor, great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much. John
Take care.
Sununu, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, the Malzberg panel. Don't go away.